And welcome to another episode of the Game Plan. This is all about the Seattle Seahawks versus the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're new to the show, I look at the key injuries, the key stats, the key analytics. I use that to create a game plan, a path to victory for both the Seahawks and the Eagles, and then we close it out with some fantasy football projections if you like to play playoff fantasy football leagues or some daily fantasy as well. I do want to remind everybody I am not a fan of either team. I don't dislike either team. I don't care about any of that. This is all purely about analytics to win your pick'em contests, your against the spread contests, and your fantasy football. So I have no bias. I bring no bias. If you don't like that I criticize your team, I don't care because it doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of love. I'm trying to make people money and give people fantasy football glory. So there you go. Before we get rolling here, as I always say, 2 seconds your time for 2 clicks, a like and a subscribe. We're a small channel. We're trying to grow. We're trying to be a big channel. We need your help to make that happen. A like and a subscribe. Small thing for you, big thing for us. We appreciate it. I also want to remind everybody we're doing every single playoff game, not just this game. So if you're interested in looking across the board, we have similar previews for all other games this week. But let's dig into the injuries. I have to say, Seattle's had some unlucky, basically bad luck this season with injuries. They come into this season, this is a little bit of a deceptive listing. Malik Turner and Quandre Diggs are the only ones really listed on the injury report. But, of course, they lost Rashad Penny, Chris Carson, and everything there. They signed Marshawn Lynch back. So how much does their running game hurt? I don't really know. I tend to think Marshawn Lynch can be okay for the playoffs. I think he'll be in shape. The Eagles, on the other hand, we all know about their injuries. Their entire wide receiver core is banged up. Now, Zach Ertz, we don't even know if he's going to play, but let me just list the injuries. Miles Sanders, huge. He's questionable. Nelson Aguilar is questionable. Zach Ertz, who I just mentioned, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Burnett, Mills. A lot of key players on the injury list there. The one that concerns me the most is Zach Ertz. This matchup for Zach Ertz is a great matchup. But we'll see. And also, I want to remind everybody that these two teams played earlier in the season. Seattle won this game. I believe it was on the road, and they won 17-9. Philadelphia, meanwhile, comes in, I believe, as 2.5-point underdogs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Seattle minus 2.5. I think that these two teams match up very well, but Seattle definitely has the health advantage in a big way. Let's move on to the key stats. These are in terms of yardage accumulation through the year. We go position group by position group, and you see the passing offense for Seattle's ranked 14th versus the 19th ranked passing defense for Philadelphia. Likewise, you have the 11th ranked passing offense for Philadelphia against the 27th ranked passing defense for Seattle. Now, in the run game, you have the 4th ranked run against the 3rd ranked run defense for Seattle. Seattle, mind you, again, is starting Marshawn Lynch and Travis Homer at running back, so they're going to be a little bit weaker, I would think. I don't know. It depends on what you think about Marshawn Lynch coming out of I don't know, free agency, retirement, whatever he was in. Does he have the juice to finish a playoff run? He should, but we'll see. But Philadelphia's run defense, that's their strength of their team for sure. And then you have the 11th ranked running offense for Philadelphia, which actually has improved over the course of the season as Miles Sanders had been more involved against the 22nd ranked running defense. Now, Seattle's an interesting team, and let's just go over to the key analytics, the bettors stats. When you look at yards per play, third down percentage, red zone percentage, all that stuff, you wonder how Seattle entered Week 17 with a chance to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. If some losses happen for New Orleans and Green Bay and all that stuff, it's stacked up. If they had beaten San Francisco, they could have been the 1 seed. And when I look at this analytically, I'm thinking that and this is a compliment, Seattle fans, I'm not trying to be critical the team at all. It's a compliment, a major compliment for how good Russel Wilson is. He's, I think, starting to get a little bit closer to the notoriety he deserves as a quarterback. He's a very dangerous quarterback, but I got to say, look at these yards per play stats, okay? So the Seattle Seahawks, again, they entered week 17. I believe they're 11-4 entering. They could have finished the season 12-4, but their net yards per play is negative 0.3 when you consider they gain 5.7 yards per play offensively, and then they give up 6 yards per play defensively. So what does that mean? That means a couple of things. One, it means Russell Wilson's winning a lot of close games, first of all. Two, it means that Seattle is sustaining drives and they're getting off the field a little bit sooner. But it also means that they give up chunk plays in yardage. And when you look at the 20-something run defense and the 20-something passing defense, you can see why that happens. It's just like Russell Wilson is willing this team to win week in and week out. Then you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's very similar. Philadelphia is also a minus 0.3 in terms of yards per play offensively versus defensively. They gain 5.2 yards per play offensively, and then they give up 5.5. So these two teams are they're pretty evenly matched. They're both a minus 0.3. That leads me to believe that both of these teams would score. Interestingly, like I said, it was a 17-9 game. And why do you get that? It's because the strength of the Seattle Seahawks offense, what they want to do is they want to establish the run and win the game late, which they're able to do with Russell Wilson. But Philadelphia can stop the run. Now, Rashad Penny had, I think, one long run. If you look at his stat line, you go back and look and you say, oh, Rashad Penny had 140 yards on 14 carries or something like that. He really had the bulk of that on one play. Seattle had kind of shut them down. And without that one play, I mean, in theory, right, this is not what happened. What happened, okay? But in theory, if they had shut down Rashad Penny on that one play, you're looking at a 10-9 game, not a 17-9 game. So it's a lot closer of a game even than what transpired. So as Bill Parcells says, though, you are what your record says you are, and the game ended how it did. So it is what it is. But I'm just trying to illustrate a point that these two teams are in terms of matchups, very similar. Now you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. What do they want to do? Well, Seattle has a very big weakness at the tight end position. They can't cover tight ends. They haven't been able to all season. Well, wouldn't you know it, Philadelphia, what do they do well? They pass the ball to their tight ends, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. But Zach Ertz has, a cracked rib and a lacerated kidney or something like that. I don't think he's going to play. He's listed as questionable now. I don't think he's going to play. We're probably not going to find out until Saturday. I'm recording this on a Wednesday evening, so I certainly don't have that information handy. Let's look at key situational football here, the third and fourth down percentage. Seattle converting 40% on third down. They're giving up 38.4%. Meanwhile, Philadelphia is fairly similar there. You look at fourth down conversions. Philadelphia is really good on fourth down, and they're really good at getting off the field on fourth down. So, Doug Peterson is an aggressive coach. I don't love when he goes for two before it's prescribed. I'm not a big fan of that. I understand the math behind it. Believe me, I do. But I don't think that's the correct usage of the statistic. If you're at the roulette table, maybe it's the correct usage, but in an NFL game, I do not believe it's the correct application of a statistic. So I don't buy it. I don't like the math. I don't like the strategy. I think it's garbage. But Doug Peterson, with respect to the fourth down argument, he's confident in his team to convert fourth downs, and he will be the kind of guy that goes for it a little bit more. Red zone percentage, Seattle, very good. Again, teams that can run the ball are usually at or above 60% in terms of red zone. Touchdown percentage, 63% for the Seattle Seahawks, 66% offensively for the Philadelphia Eagles. You look defensively, slight edge towards Philadelphia in terms of forcing teams to kick field goals rather than get touchdowns. You look at turnover margin, massive favor over towards Seattle, basically a possession a game they're stealing away when you compare these two teams, and it's similar in the yardage. So what does all this stuff mean? I think Seattle comes in as the healthier team. Although the record, Philadelphia finished 9-7, but they could have very easily made the playoffs at 8-8. The Seattle Seahawks could have finished the season 12-4. So I would say the average NFL fan that doesn't watch the ridiculous amounts of football that I do and prepping for this show and all the other stuff that I do, they might say, oh, this is a big mismatch. Philadelphia is definitely outclassed here. Seattle won that game by 8 points earlier in the year, and Philadelphia. This game is a lot closer than you think it is, and that Seattle minus 2.5. I think that line is about right, and I would say Philadelphia has less question marks about what they are, but more question marks in terms of injury. I would say if the rosters were of equal health at this point, I would maybe lean towards the Eagles, but let's go to the path of victory. I'm telling you, these margins are razor thin here. This is a very tough NFL weekend to pick against the spread if you're in pick'em contests. I think the only value is Minnesota +8 just because they're getting so many points. But let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. So Seattle is way healthier, like I said. Both teams give up more yardage than they gain. I think both teams are going to be good. We mentioned Philadelphia has the edge in red zone percentage. I think Seattle needs to actually have the edge in the game. That's an easy thing to say, hey, if you score more touchdowns than the other team, you win. But they need to flip that, I think, especially because I believe Philadelphia will be able to flip the field, maybe not so much in turnovers, but with fourth down conversions. Philadelphia's strength is run defense, like I said. Seattle will still try and do their best. It's one of the things I like about Schottenheimer as an offensive coordinator, and I've given him a fair amount of criticism over the years, but he is patient with the run. I do think Marshawn Lynch will get some vintage performance for him. It's going to be fun to watch as an NFL fan. Maybe not so much as an Eagles fan, I think, this week. But I think Marshawn Lynch will do well, and I think Homer will do well out of the backfield, catching a few passes and everything. So that'll be fun to watch. Put better coverage person on tight ends. Now, like I said, I think Zach Ertz is out. I think Dallas Goedert's going to I think he's going to be the focal point, really, of this Philadelphia Eagles offense this week. Minnesota, I don't know Seattle, I don't know what's going on in their scheme. I don't know why they keep giving up so much yardage, so many touchdowns to tight ends, but they need to basically shut Goddard down. Put a cornerback on him, for crying out loud. Do something, because they cannot let Goddard beat them, because that's what Philadelphia is going to try to do, and we'll see what happens there. Now, follow the same defensive prescription from earlier in the year. You just got to shut down that tight end, and I think Seattle's looking pretty. Now, Philadelphia, meanwhile, they've basically created a new identity. Deshaun Jackson, there's some news that maybe he's going to be coming off the IR. He's not going to be ready for this game, so don't pay too much attention to that. Maybe if Philadelphia can go on a run, maybe he'll be available in the next couple of weeks here, but I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's just starting to run sprints on solid ground again. I don't really see him being a factor this week. But Zach Ertz, if he plays, I think he's a great player. I think Philadelphia is going to want both tight ends there, but I don't think Zach Ertz plays. So what does that mean? Nelson Agholor, Philadelphia, you're going to be biting your nails, because Agholor has to be a factor this week. Look, I think Ward will do just fine at the wide receiver position. I trust him more. If I'm an Eagles fan, I would certainly trust him more. But I would say Agholor has to be a factor on the outside. Even if he finishes without a catch, he has to do enough to draw attention. He has to create enough separation to draw attention away, so that Philadelphia can continue to move and work the middle of the field. Stopping Marshawn Lynch is key. You're going to want to make Russell Wilson try to beat you through the air. Now, he can beat you through the air, but I think that's the path to victory for Philadelphia. Make Russell Wilson be the quarterback. Make him throw the ball downfield and take your chances there. The turnover margin for the Eagles is a weakness. I mentioned before, though, Philadelphia's ability to, you turn the ball over, you fumble. Well, it's kind of like a turnover when you go for it on fourth down at midfield. You flip the field again. So their ability to do that offensively kind of mitigates some of those turnover issues they've been having. But they need to hang on the ball. If they can have a clean stat sheet, I like their chances a little bit more. And the running game is going to have opportunities this week. But who's going to be running the ball? Is Sanders going to be back? They've had some good news as of the time of this recording. It's still kind of 50-50. Maybe he'll be playing by the time you're catching this video. But Miles Sanders, I think, is a key. If he can't go, is it Jordan Howard, who they've been kind of reserving and trying to get him healthy for this playoff run? Is it going to be Boston Scott or something like that? I don't know. But running backs will have opportunities this week. Now, for Seattle, for the Philadelphia Eagles. No, what am I talking about? I just did both of these. I'm such an idiot. Let's move it on instead to the to the Rockobot section, the fantasy football projections here. So Russell Wilson, I start. Marshawn Lynch, I start. I think both of them will have healthy games and get in the end zone. Marshawn Lynch will be interesting because I don't know what his daily fantasy budget is going to be this week. I would definitely be a buyer on him. Even with Philadelphia's strong run defense, Seattle's patient with it. It's kind of like Gruden in Oakland with Josh Jacobs. Even if they're playing a team with a really good running defense, that running back, he might have 30 carries for 80 yards, but that's still good scoring for a fantasy football running back, especially if they can punch it in. Lockett and Metcalf, I like too. I do think that Seattle will be able to pass. I don't think I mentioned in the previous slide, but it is one of the keys to victory. In the previous game, Seattle had a good passing game matchup. Now, they won the game, and good for them, but the receivers did not play well in that original matchup. So Philadelphia can put together a similar plan. Again, you're basically one long Rashad Penny explosive play away from being right into it at the end of that game. They need to basically bottom up. Let's see. Go back to the fantasy football projections. I don't like Turner. Jacob Hollister is for me this week. I do like this defense and special teams. I think it'll be kind of a lower scoring, maybe 20-17 type game. Carson Wentz for the Philadelphia Eagles, yes, he's a start for me. Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, if he plays. If not, Scott. I do like both running backs this week as kind of fringe starts. So if you need one of those daily fantasy plays, maybe you buy into like an Alvin Kamara or something like that. Offensively at running back, maybe you need a cheaper running back outside. You can look towards Lynch depending on what his budget is. You can look towards a guy like Scott or Howard depending on what their budgets are. Alshon Jeffrey, I don't know why I have him listed here. That's obviously not going to happen. Alshon Jeffrey's out. It's going to be Nelson Agholor as the primary receiver. And so, Nelson Agholor, by the way, would be that 11.3. It's just a miscue from my spreadsheet. The two receivers there should be Nelson Agholor projected at the 11.3 and Greg Ward projected at the 9.9. I would still trust Ward more than Aguilar. He just looks better to me. Then you look at Ertz and Goddard. I think Ertz is at 18.8. He'd be a great play. And Goddard, I think, is a start-worthy player regardless. Now, if Ertz is out, and even if he plays, I think Ertz will be limited. I still like Dallas Goedert. I like the value there at the tight end position this week. So I'm a buyer on Dallas Goedert and daily fantasy football. And then defensively, I don't love the projection just because it's so hard to sack. That's why the Philadelphia Eagles projection is a little bit lower. Even if they keep the points down, they're not going to get a lot of sacks. I don't think they're going to get a lot of turnovers. So it's going to kind of keep that score a little bit lower. I think you can find value elsewhere defensively in fantasy football this week. That's how I see it. So there you go. That brings me to the end of the Seattle Seahawks versus the Philadelphia Eagles game plan. Once, everybody, like I said, I'm unbiased, so I know some people are probably going to be unhappy or happy depending on what's going on. But I will say this, please comment. Let me know what you agree or disagree with. Let's have a discussion. We are, once again, doing all of these other videos, so check us out, and we will catch you on another episode. Whichever team wins, we're going to be talking about them next week. Good luck to everybody. Good luck to the fan bases. I hope you get what you're looking for this weekend, which is a W and a continuation of the 2019 NFL season. We'll catch you on another episode soon. Thanks, everyone.